I still remember the exact second my world tilted. It was 6:17 in the morning, late March, the kind of Texas dawn that paints the sky the color of a fresh peach, and I was leaning against the porch rail of the house my great-grandfather built with his own hands in 1954, coffee black as sin in one fist, watching my grandfather's old border collie, Blue, chase mockingbirds across the front pasture. 42 acres of Lazy Star Ranch stretched out in front of me like a promise kept, red dirt, live oaks, a windmill creaking its ancient song, and the low, satisfied humming of 300 head of Hereford Angus crosses who had never once in 71 years known anything but this ground beneath their hoofs. Then I heard the tires on gravel. A white Range Rover so clean it looked offended by the dust, rolling slow like it owned the county road. It stopped dead center in front of my cattle guard, and out stepped a woman who looked like she'd been manufactured in a Dallas salon and shipped overnight. Bleached hair that defied both physics and the 25 miles per hour gusts coming off the plains, lipstick the color of fresh blood, perfume so aggressive I swear the cattle lifted their heads in alarm. She had a clipboard, of course, because monsters always do, and she marched up my steps like she was about to serve papers on the devil himself. "Coleman Reed?" she asked, voice sharp enough to shave with. "That's me. My name is Valerie Sinclair, president of the Silver Creek Meadows Homeowners Association. You have 30 calendar days to permanently remove every animal, every piece of agricultural equipment, and every trace of livestock operations from this property, or we will petition the county for forcible abatement and lien your land into bankruptcy." I just stared at her, coffee halfway to my lips, trying to process the sheer galactic-sized nerve it took to stand on soil my family had bled for since before her neighborhood was even a gleam in a developer's greedy eye, and tell me I had to leave it. She must have mistaken my silence for weakness, because she smiled that smile you only see on people who've never lost anything real, and added, "We're not asking, Mr. Reed. This is your only warning." Blue growled low in his throat. Even the dog knew. See, 6 months earlier I'd been in Washington, D.C., senior policy director at HUD, 15 years of writing the actual federal code that governs every single homeowners association in the United States. The guy who helped draft the fair housing amendments that say you can't discriminate against agricultural lifestyles in rural interface zones. The guy who sat in congressional hearings while senators begged for my opinion on predatory HOA tactics. I walked away from all of it the day the call came that Grandpa had passed, left the beltway traffic and the marble hallways for this porch, for this dirt, for the sound of cattle lowing at sunset. And now this woman, this transplant who still had the moving company barcode stickers on her garage shelves, thought she could evict me from my own blood. I set my coffee down real slow, wiped my mouth with the back of my hand, and said the first words that started the war. "Ma'am, you just made the worst mistake of your life." She didn't waste time. Day 3, a certified letter on fake law firm letterhead threatening 6-figure daily fines. Day 5, her cousin in a county truck taking pictures of my manure spreader like it was a crime scene. Day 9, a concerned citizen complaint to the TCQ about groundwater contamination that turned out cleaner than the bottled water she drank. Every morning another truck, another clipboard, another lie dressed up in official language. I tried the neighborly route first, because that's how we do things in Red Hollow. Invited her for coffee on the porch, offered her a slice of my aunt's buttermilk pie. Figured maybe she just didn't understand how things worked out here. She showed up in heels sharp enough to stake a vampire, took one look at my kitchen table, scarred by 4 generations of Reed men carving their initials after supper, sniffed, and said, "Charming rustic aesthetic, but it has to go." That was when I knew this wasn't ignorance. This was a paid job. Turns out West Star Properties had been trying to assemble my 42 acres for Phase 3 of Silver Creek Meadows for 12 years, offering my grandpa everything short of a kidney, and he'd laughed in their faces every time. Valerie's contract was simple. Force the sale, collect $60,000 plus first pick of the new lakefront lots. She'd done it 6 times before in 3 different counties. 6 other families gone. 6 other legacies paved over for swimming pools shaped like kidneys and mailboxes that all looked exactly alike. So she escalated, hard. Fake cease and desist letters on forged EPA letterhead. A staged news segment with children in surgical masks standing in front of my fence, while Valerie tearfully claimed my cattle were giving them asthma. 2 o'clock in the morning, I caught her on camera in a black hoodie spray painting biohazard across my front gate so she could file insurance claims the next day for agricultural vandalism. She hired actors, actual actors, to show up in fake FBI windbreakers with a forged emergency health order giving me 24 hours to evacuate my own livestock or face federal prison. I stood there on my porch in my boxers at dawn, watching these two clowns sweat through their cheap suits while my real federal contacts, people I'd written legislation with, watched the whole circus from unmarked SUVs parked behind my hay barn, recording every second for the RICO indictment they were already drafting. But the moment that broke something open inside me, the moment I stopped being angry and started being dangerous, was the night Margaret Walsh showed up. Margaret was 61, retired third-grade teacher, soft voice, kind eyes, the kind of woman who still baked cookies for new neighbors. She'd been Valerie's treasurer because someone responsible needed to watch the money. She pulled up in her 10-year-old Camry shaking so hard she could barely hold the banker's box. Inside were ledgers, text messages, bank records, and the single most beautiful sentence I'd ever read in a legal document. Silver Creek Meadows HOA was never filed with the Texas Secretary of State. It does not legally exist. Margaret looked up at me with tears cutting clean lines through the dust on her cheeks and whispered, "Coleman, she stole $142,000 from us. And there are 6 other families. 6. She did the exact same thing to them." I helped her. I didn't know. I took her hand, felt it trembling like a bird, and made a promise right then, out loud. To her, to the ghosts of every Reed who ever swung a hammer on this place, to the land itself. This ends with her in handcuffs, and every single acre comes home. We built a war room in my kitchen. Margaret, me, Troy Delgado, retired electrician who could smell a lie at 50 yards, Luz Morales, paralegal with a photographic memory and a heart like a lion, and J.D. Harlan, town lawyer whose granddaddy and mine used to drink coffee together every morning at the cafe that isn't there anymore. Nights blurred into strategy sessions, coffee strong enough to etch glass, mesquite smoke drifting in through the screen door while we mapped every dollar, every text, every forged document. We contacted the other 6 families, quiet, careful, late-night phone calls and porch visits, men and women who thought they were alone, who thought they'd failed their kids by losing the ranch. When they heard they weren't crazy, that it had been a professional con from day one, I heard grown men cry over the phone. One old rancher in Eastland County, voice like gravel and heartbreak, told me, "Son, if you put that woman in prison, I'll drive every mile just to watch them lock the door." We froze accounts, filed emergency injunctions, looped in the FBI field office in Dallas, the IRS Criminal Investigation Division, because Valerie never reported a dime of her finder's fees, and the U.S. attorney who still owed me a favor from the 2019 predatory lending case. Every move Valerie made from that point on just tightened the noose she'd tied herself. Tuesday, October 14th, the night the house of cards finally fell. Valerie called a victory town hall at the Red Hollow Community Center, rented the biggest room, set up a projector, invited every news station between Dallas and Abilene. She'd been out on bond 48 hours after her first arrest for the fake federal agent stunt, still convinced she could spin it as a misunderstanding between agencies. She walked in like a queen, navy power suit, hair taller than her ego, smile sharp as barbed wire. The room was packed. Neighbors who'd been lied to for 8 months, reporters smelling blood, and 27 federal agents in plain clothes scattered through the folding chairs like wolves among sheep. She took the stage, clicked to her first slide. Federal intervention success, protecting our families. Started talking about her tireless coordination with Washington and how the agricultural threat had finally been neutralized. The lies rolled off her tongue like she'd rehearsed them in the mirror every morning. That's when Margaret stood up, voice small but steady as a church bell. "Valerie, can you explain why you embezzled $142,000 from people who trusted you?" The room went dead silent. You could hear the air conditioning click on. Valerie's mouth opened, closed, opened again. She tried deflection, tried indignation, tried tears that wouldn't come. Then I stood up in the back row. I was wearing the same boots I'd worn the day she first threatened me, same faded pearl snap shirt, same quiet rage that had been simmering for 7 months. I walked the center aisle slow, every eye following me, Valerie's face draining of color with every step until she looked like something left out in the sun too long. I took the microphone from her cold, shaking fingers and clicked the remote. The screen filled with bank records, text messages proving the kickbacks, night vision footage of her spray painting my fence, audio of her hiring actors to play federal agents, a map with 6 other red pins marking 6 other stolen ranches. Gasps rippled through the crowd like a wave. Someone started crying. Someone else started cursing. And that's when Special Agent Daniel Ramirez, FBI, stood up in the third row, badge catching the fluorescent light like a promise kept. Valerie Sinclair, you are under federal arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, mail fraud, impersonation of federal officers, civil rights violations under color of law, racketeering, and 6 counts of theft by deception. You have the right to remain silent. The cuffs went on with a sound I will hear in my dreams for the rest of my life. Clean, final, beautiful. She screamed all the way out the door about corruption, about conspiracies, about how I'd ruined everything. Agent Ramirez paused at the exit, turned back to the stunned crowd, and said loud enough for every microphone to catch it. For the record, Lazy Star Ranch has been inspected by every relevant agency, state and federal, and is in 100% compliance. Ms. Sinclair has been the subject of a multi-jurisdiction task force for 9 months. Mr. Reed's only crime was refusing to be bullied off land his family has ranched since before any of us were born. Old Pete Grayson, 83 years old, Korean War vet like my grandpa, stood up in the back, hat in his gnarled hands, voice cracking but strong. Coleman Reed, the whole damn town owes you an apology. And if there's anything left of that woman when the feds are done, what's left belongs to the family she broke. 18 years. That's what the judge gave her. 18 years in federal prison, no parole, plus full restitution and punitive damages. West Star Properties collapsed within 90 days, executives indicted, $200 million in government contracts canceled. Every stolen dollar came back, plus interest, plus pain and suffering awards big enough to buy new ranches for the kids who thought they'd lost their heritage forever. We started the Reed Legacy Defense Fund. 38 families saved and counting. Texas passed the Rural Homestead Protection Act because of what happened right here, tougher penalties, real oversight, actual teeth. And me? I'm still on the same porch every morning, same boots, same coffee, same dog asleep at my feet. The sunrise still paints the sky peach and gold. The wind still smells like sage and honesty. And sometimes, when it's real quiet, I swear I can hear my grandfather laughing, low and satisfied, the way he did when he knew a hard job was finally finished right. So tell me, you, sitting there watching this, when someone with a clipboard and a smile tries to steal everything your family bled for, everything that makes you who you are, do you roll over because it's easier, or do you fight with every weapon the law gives you until the monster is in chains and the land is safe for your kids' kids? Is righteous vengeance still vengeance if it's delivered through the very system the bully tried to weaponize? Or is it just justice wearing its Sunday best? Drop your answer below. And if some HOA tyrant is breathing down your neck right now, send me a message. We've got lawyers on speed dial, federal statutes bookmarked, and a track record of turning predators into cautionary tales. This is Coleman Reed, signing off from Lazy Star Ranch, where the coffee's always hot, the cattle always come home, and nobody gets to tell a Reed where he can and cannot stand. See you in the next fight.